Tom, can you hear us still?
I hear you fine. I'm still now. Am I there?
Oh, there's your video.
Okay, great. It is not as intuitive as some of these things are. Every one of them's different. WebEx is different than Zoom and whatever.
Yeah. Well, Tom, we just had another member of the AC get here, and I think they will be ready to start here in just a minute. I can let you know when we're ready to
That's
actually
fine.
get started if you want.
That is perfect. Is my volume reasonable to you?
I think so. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, tell me when it's time to do it, and I'll call the meeting to order.
All right. Perfect.
Now, Jesse,
Yes, sir.
for my information, the way I read this, the only thing we're really considering is the allocation split timing, correct?
So with Amendment 4, and Jeff will kind of go over this in the presentation, the only issue in Amendment 4 is kind of taking that allocation that's scheduled to occur in 2026, the allocation shift that's scheduled to occur in 2026, and moving it up to 2025.
2025. That is my understanding. We're not litigating Amendment 3 or 5. We're just really looking at the one issue, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yep. And I hope we're clear on
And
that so we don't relitigate Amendment 3.
and we actually have a quorum here right now. If you want to go ahead and get started, Tom.
Okay, it is now officially 6:02. I call the meeting of the Southern Regional Advisory Committee meeting to order on April 8th. The first thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Everybody has a copy of the agenda. Will somebody make a motion to approve the agenda, or does somebody have something that they want to add or delete from the agenda?
Move Glenn Skinner.
Okay, we have somebody second.
Yes, sir, Tom. Glenn is the one who made the motion, and Mike Oppegard is the one who
Okay,
seconded.
I could not hear the second. So, okay, any further discussion on approval of the agenda? Hearing none, I call the question on approval of the agenda. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. 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 So what'd you figure there, Jesse? Did we pass?
It looked pretty unanimous to me.
Okay, good. I can see a lot of the backs of people, but not everybody. So it's very difficult. The next is the approval of the minutes of the March 19th meeting. I would entertain a motion from the floor for the approval of the minutes.
Move
That was a motion by Ken to approve.
Okay, and we have a second.
I'll second.
Glenn Skinner.
Okay, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
I think we're unanimous again, I hope.
Yes, sir.
And then we move on to the presentation of the draft Southern Flounder Fishery Management Plan Amendment 4. So I'll let y'all take it away from there.
All right, I will share this on WebEx real fast. And the one presenting tonight will be one of our fisheries management plan coordinators, Jeff Dobbs. If I could figure out how to use a computer, this would share.
There you go.
All right, good evening, committee members. My name is Jeff Dobbs. With me today is Dan Zapp and Holly White, and then online we have Ann Markwith. Me and Dan are the FMP coordinators, and Holly and Ann are the species leads for Southern Flounder. Today I will be presenting an overview of Amendment 4 to inform our discussion today. This amendment originated from the MFC's motion to open the Southern Flounder FMP for the review of the plan to begin in 2024. The intent is to allow for more recreational access while maintaining the rebuilding requirements of the North Carolina Southern Flounder FMP Amendment 3. that was passed at their August 2024 business meeting. The sole issue in this amendment is increasing recreational access to southern flounder through sector allocation parity, and it was developed to address this motion. Here's a quick outline of what we're going to discuss today. I will begin with a review of the timeline for this amendment, then move into the base plan and remind everyone of the stock status from the 2019 stock assessment update. We will then move into an overview of the loan issue paper in Amendment 4, beginning with the issue origination, followed by some background information before moving on to the discussion section and proposed management options. Here's the timeline for development of Amendment 4. Please note this timeline is significantly abbreviated from typical plan development. This is necessary in order to adopt and implement new management measures in time for the 2025 flounder season. If any step in this process is delayed, then it will require a special meeting from the MFC or development of this amendment will be terminated. Just to note, this amendment is only meant to provide a short-term approach to the MFC's motion while Amendment 5 is developed. Long-term, more comprehensive approaches for recreational and commercial management will be addressed during subsequent development of Amendment 5. As a reminder of the current stock status of southern flounder, the South Atlantic southern flounder stock is overfished, and overfishing is occurring as of 2017, the terminal year of the 2019 coast-wide stock assessment update. I will now discuss the sole issue paper for Amendment 4, titled Increasing Recreational Access to Southern Flounder Through Sector Allocation Parity. At the August 2024 NCMFC business meeting, the NCMFC passed a motion to amend the Southern Flounder FMP for the review of the plan to begin in 2024. The intent is to allow for more recreational access while maintaining the rebuilding requirements of the North Carolina Southern Flounder FMP Amendment 3. Due to the constrained time frame to enact new management in 2025, the rebuilding requirements of Amendment 3, and the prescribed nature of the DEQ Secretary's approval, the only approach to accomplish this in 2025 is by accelerating the shift to sector allocation parity in 2025 rather than in 2026 as originally scheduled in the Southern Flounder Amendment 3. Southern flounder are currently managed under Amendment 3, which was adopted in May 2022 and implemented a quota-based approach to rebuild the stock to the SSB target by reducing North Carolina's portion of the catch by 72% compared to catch in 2017, the terminal year of the stock assessment. Quota management includes paybacks and more precise management and to account for quota overages. The quota was set to 548,034 pounds of total allowable catch. To meet the 72% reduction required to rebuild SSB to the target, the quota was set to 548,034 pounds of total allowable catch, or TAC, which results in 532,352 pounds of total allowable landings, or TAL, when the estimated dead discards are accounted for. This TAL was further divided into commercial and recreational sector allocations. The allocation was set to 70% commercial and 30% recreational for 2021 through 2024 based on historical landings, with allocation moving to 60% commercial and 40% recreational in 2025 and 50-50 beginning in 2026. This figure shows combined landings, discards, and overall reductions from both sectors in 2017, the terminal year of the stock assessment. Under Amendment 3, commercial landings have been closely monitored by the Trip Ticket Program to maintain total landings near the quota in near real time for each gear and management area suballocation. This approach is not realistic for the recreational sector. Thus, a one fish bag limit and restricted harvest season have been used to constrain recreational landings. Total recreational landings are estimated through the Marine Recreational Information Program, or MRIP, and the DMF gig mail surveys, and those data are not available until after the fishing season. Dead discards for both sectors are not available until after the fisheries close, but are added to make sure that the sector's total allowable catch is not exceeded each year. Management under Amendment 3 achieved a 69% harvest reduction in 2022 and 68% in 2023, shown in the red box. Reductions from Amendment 2 are shown in the blue box. The 72% target overall reduction has not been met for 2023 due to overages in the recreational fishery. This table shows recreational TAC and catch estimates in pounds with adjusted TAC based on overage reductions. As you can see, for 2022, total removals from the recreational fishery exceeded its TAC by an estimated 56,340 pounds. This overage was deducted from the 2023 recreational TAC represented by the adjusted TAC for 2023, and the season was reduced to 2 weeks. Despite this adjustment, recreational removals increased to 241,609 pounds in 2023, resulting in an overage of 127,294 pounds. The overage was deducted from the 2024 recreational TAC, leaving 43,361 pounds in adjusted TAC, which was less than the predicted recreational dead discards of 47,291 pounds, causing the DMF to not open the recreational season in 2024. A major contributor to recreational overages has been the higher than expected dead discards in the hook and line fishery, which have remained at or above the level observed in 2017 despite shortened seasons. Estimated dead discards and MRIP landings estimates from the short 2024 recreational season are not yet finalized, but will be used to adjust the TAC for the 2025 season. The most straightforward approach to immediately address recreational access in time for a 2025 recreational season is to expedite the sector allocation transition to 50-50 in 2025 by amending the plan. This would result in a 66.7% increase in recreational TAL compared to 2024 by adding 106,470 pounds from the commercial sector to the recreational sector allocation in 2025. Under the Amendment 3 allocation shift schedule to 60-40 in 2025, there would likely be a short recreational season in 2025. Expediting the shift to 50-50 in 2025 reduces the possibility of recreational catch overages that may mitigate the need for future season closures, though will not likely increase the length of the recreational season. However, maintaining Amendment 3 rebuilding requirements does not provide substantial harvest opportunities for any fishing sector, regardless of allocation. And given recreational landings and discard levels in recent years, even with a shift to 50-50 allocation, season closures in 2026 and beyond remain a possibility due to overages. This allocation shift is a short-term solution to address recreational access. Long-term, more comprehensive solutions for recreational access will be addressed during the concurrent development of Amendment 5. This table illustrates why even with more quota allocated to the recreational sector, the season will not be longer than previous seasons. Estimated recreational landings from 2022 and 2023 indicate an increase in catch over shorter seasons. Even with a shift to 50-50 allocation, a recreational season that maintains the one fish bag limit from Amendment 3 would need to be brief, likely between 2 and 4 weeks, to maintain allowable landings of 266,000 pounds while accounting for dead discards. Recreational catch estimates from 2024 will be available later this year and will be used to determine if recreational catch exceeded the adjusted TAC of 43,361 pounds in 2024. Any overages will be subtracted from the 2025 TAL. The Amendment 3 management strategy provides guidance on the shift in landings from commercial to recreational sector. Per Amendment 3, the pound net TAL allocation will be maintained at 186,458 pounds, and the poundage shifted to recreational landings will come from the commercial mobile gear TAL allocation because of the increased monetary investment of operating and maintaining pound net gear. This will leave 79,718 pounds of TAL for mobile gears, minus any overages that may have occurred in 2024. This allocation shift is not likely to increase recreational season length beyond 2 to 4 weeks, but will likely further shorten the mobile gear season. Based on recent mobile gear landings trends, the scheduled allocation shift will result in a mobile gear season that will likely last 1 or 2 days, which may be non-consecutive. It is important to keep in mind that this is an allocation issue, not a resource issue. The MFC tasked the division with creating more recreational access while maintaining the 72% reduction from Amendment 3. Due to this reduction, the amount of resource available has not changed. So the only way to address this motion in 2025 is to shift allocations. In a sense, the pie is the same size, it is just adjusting the slices. The management options for Amendment 4 include status quo. Status quo would maintain the allocation transition schedule from Amendment 3, moving to 60% commercial and 40% recreational in 2025 and 50-50 in 2026. This does not immediately address the NCMFC motion to increase recreational access to the southern flounder fishery. The motion would be addressed by a more comprehensive amendment process. The development of Amendment 4 would be immediately terminated if this option is selected. The second option would be to expedite the allocation shift. This option would expedite the commercial recreational sector allocation to 50-50 in 2025 rather than in 2026 as prescribed in Amendment 3. This option immediately addresses the MFC motion to increase recreational access to southern flounder. Long-term, more comprehensive solutions for recreational access will be addressed during subsequent development of Amendment 5 to the FMP. Because of the abbreviated timeline to complete this amendment in time to have new management for the 2025 recreational season, these are our only management options for Amendment 4. Here's the amendment timeline again, just to reiterate the abbreviated schedule of development and remind you where we are at in the process. A summary of public comment and AC recommendations will be presented to the MFC at their May business meeting, where they will select their preferred management. And with that, I'll take any questions.
No, it's not in this particular scenario. What would be the odds on taking the recreational season? Right now, what you got is derby fishery, and you're getting a massive amount of discard and waste, and spreading it out over a longer period, 3-4 months. So you might have 1 or 2 days a week that you could take flounder. That would spread the allocation you have out over a larger field instead of just those people who happen to come to on vacation or going to fish on that particular days and that 2-week period. Like me, you would want to broadcast it out over a larger field within the summer or whatever. And they'd pick whatever days they want to. It wouldn't make no difference to me. But it looked like you would service a lot more members of the public that way than you do just compressing everything down into a 2-week period.
Yeah, so we're definitely looking at the seasonality of the recreational fishery in Amendment 5. Unfortunately, to develop this really quick and get it rolled out for this season, which was the intent of the MFC's motion and the Secretary's approval, we're basically stuck to just this allocation shift. We're definitely looking at changing or at adjusting the season times to possibly make it longer for Amendment 5, but days of the week, probably not a great approach just because it's really hard to monitor that through MRIP. We'd probably look at moving it outside of peak seasons if we wanted to lengthen it.
When did you say you thought you would have the 2024 data?
Very soon. I think,
That would just be a
yeah,
beneficial factor here, I believe, but I was just curious.
yeah, MRIP typically releases the finalized data in April of each year. Right now we have preliminary estimates, and that gives us pretty good insight as to what happened. But we don't have any final numbers until MRIP releases that at some point this month.
And remind me, for 2024, there was a short season, or was there one?
So WRC allowed a season in inland waters, and then so that there wouldn't be the same issue we had in 2023, we went ahead and matched that for joint. DMF matched that, or the MFC matched that for joint waters.
What was the landings on that?
I mean, I can,
Go ahead.
preliminarily, because it's not final yet, just the intercepts that were in joint waters, it equated to about a little over 10,000 pounds. Like, I'd say 11,000. Just for those 4 days when harvest was open.
So that would be 11,000 from the 43,000 that is remaining.
Plus, we have dead discards that we need to account for, and those are
Yeah.
pretty much in line with what we've been seeing since the onset of Amendment 3. So we're probably looking at a few thousand pounds of overage.
And that's, just attributed to having that open season.
I know you said this isn't a resource issue, it's more allocation, but I don't see it that way. I look at the high degree of uncertainty in the recreational data using MRIP for one over these real short seasons, plus we're using that fifth of a pound average for the dead discards, and we know recreational dead discards when it's closed throughout the entire year and they're throwing back these relatively large fish. It doesn't make sense that they're a fifth of a pound. And I know I talked to Ann about this before, that they're looking for a more, respectable number to use for that. But it just seems to me that trying to increase access to the fishery when you have that real high degree of uncertainty, I mean, we don't even know for sure we're getting the escapement we need to meet the 72% reduction. If these dead discards weigh 1.5 pounds instead of a fifth of a pound, we're not even getting a 52% reduction, which is what y'all say we needed to rebuild the stock, much less a 72% reduction. And I'm just wondering if y'all have concerns about increasing that uncertainty as you increase access and possibly increasing dead discards, and how that may affect our ability to actually rebuild the stock in the timeline.
So to your dead discard point, it really hasn't seemed to matter much whether the season's open or closed. We've had pretty consistent dead discard values since we adopted Amendment 3. In terms of the uncertainty in the recreational data, I mean, we just use the best available science that we have, and MRIP is that. We have the best MRIP sampling on the entire coast. We're pretty confident in our data. So yeah, we're comfortable using it.
And I get that, but it's universally accepted that MRIP was not designed to manage quotas, and it is not accepted for these real short seasons. I mean, it's meant to show trends over time, and if you have catch occurring all throughout the year when you're sampling, but when you're sampling randomly in a 2-week season, you can either accidentally hit where a few people come in and way inflate the numbers, or you can miss where they come in and way underestimate the numbers. And I mean, there's tons of papers about this out there to show that it's not designed for this and not necessarily recommended for use, in these real short windows and for monitoring quotas. It just seems like there's a lot of uncertainty there.
And I will say, in Amendment 5, we are looking at ways that we can, make the season longer, or ways that we can better account for the recreational catch. For this amendment, we're pretty much, if we want to increase recreational access, we need to shift quota allocation. That's really our only choice to do it for 2025.
I'll say one thing here. If you increase the access for recreationals, you're probably going to reduce some of the dead discards because the season's closed so much of the year that if you expand it a little bit, there's probably a significant number of dead discards that may be able to be kept during that time that may offset some of the uncertainty that you're talking about. So it goes both ways. And the real issue at hand here is, are we going to look at recommend changing the quota or leaving it as it is, which will go into effect in 2026 irregardless. And that's what this really boils down today. It's not a, revisiting of management option, management plan 3 and whether it's right or wrong. We're down to, do we or don't we want to change what's been proposed by the Marine Fisheries Commission? And that's the ultimate question here.
And I get that, Tom, and I'm just weighing the uncertainty and in my mind, how it could impact the stock and shifting those fish harvest, a harvested recreational fish weighs 2.3 pounds. A dead discard is this size right here, and it's 1/5 of a pound. And how that impacts the quota, we've got a very small quota for both sectors. And
Well, let's not forget that your quota isn't counting what's discarded out of a trawl either.
it's counted on the front end because they don't monitor it yearly. So they took it off the quota ahead of time before they developed the quota. And you could say the same thing about recreational crab pots or anything, flounder or keel. Unfortunately, these were included in the stock assessment. Every year, that stock assessment uses 1/5 of a pound average for dead discards.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Can you guys pull up, tables 1.5 and 1.6 on the appendix that you passed out to us? I had questions about how that dead discard was calculated.
It'll take me 1 second to pull it up, but I will.
Okay.
Because I'll say that recreational dead discards number is way over what other dead discard numbers usually are.
Page 18.
Because it's a year-round discard rate.
Perhaps, but that was my,
And they could be overestimated or underestimated. There's a lot of uncertainty with that data. I mean, that's one of the key points is they never see those fish.
If they would just count discards just from the short open season, then it probably wouldn't be a problem. But it's a year-round.
Yeah, well, if they move the
I will say-
season later into the fall, you would probably have larger fish. That's something they ought to think about for management 5, Amendment 5.
that in Summers, but that's beside the point. Okay, so just a couple quick things there. You know, we had total discards of 62,668 for 22 and 48,457 for 23. And of that, we had rec discards of 53,022 and 41,559. Okay, that was off the other table, 1.6.
Can we scroll down?
So my question is the difference from the rec discards, at least commercial discards, of only 9646 for 2022 and 6898 for 2023. And when you crunch that number, you're telling me that the dead discard rate, the 53,022 for 22, was 30.47 of our total landings? 30.47. If you take the total landings, 173,973, and you divide it by the dead discards, vice versa, sorry, my math is backward there, 53,022.
Assuming
I get a
not
dead
doing-
discard rate of 30%, 31% almost. Is that correct?
Well, you have like over like 2.2 million are about a year.
Okay.
That NREP estimates, and then we take a proportion of those that are, and attribute those that are identified as southern flounder to that proportion of the 2.2 million.
But I thought every flounder a recreational guy caught was a southern. It didn't matter what the.
No. It's about,
How's MREP doing by species now when earlier they weren't?
the discards are not, when you come in and you report, I discarded 5 flounder, that would be turned over as left eye flounder discards.
Okay.
So what we do
They still
is,
saying southern then, right?
no, well, what we do is we take, you have the, just say for easiness here, you got 2 million left eye flounder discards.
Mm-hmm.
But then we take your species specific harvest number through the MRIP intercepts, so the identified Gulf, Southerns, and Summers, and we get that proportion there of each of those species and apply that to the 2.2 million, 5%. And that's how we get the number of southern flounder.
So the actual percentage is based on the 2.2 total land, well, the 2.2
Yeah,
caught and released.
there's still another step. So then we get like, that's your total number of discards,
Mhm.
right? Now, say it's
Mhm.
1 million southern flounder discards. Then we apply 9%
Okay.
of those die. And then we get the weight, right?
Right.
The number left is times 0.21.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's how we get that. Um,
It's important to note that you're correct, MRIP doesn't do that. We do that in-house. We have a recreational specialist that has set for it.
Okay. Now that to me was just shocking when I was looking at the numbers because I'm thinking total landings is in total landings.
right.
But our dead discard rate was running 30% of total landings. How, I was like, well, how the hell is that possible?
Yeah, so that's just, that's, just applied across all waves and then annually.
If you had 10,
Okay.
if you had 10 fish at 13 inches, it looked mighty good right now, wouldn't it?
It would indeed.
And I saw you raise your hand. Did you have something to add?
Nope, that was an accident. Sorry, Holly covered it.
You wouldn't have nowhere near the discards at that. Think about it.
And to Mike's point, my concern, the discards are really high. In 2022, that 52,771 pounds was actually 251,000 fish. And if that weight is higher than this fifth of a pound, we may be way off from our projections for escapement and what we're achieving. And that's my concern, because sooner or later, y'all are gonna have a number for that, and we'll come back and say, oops, it wasn't a fifth of a pound, it's a half or a pound or a pound and a half. And then all these projections we've had for escapement for the past 5 years are gonna be out the window. And that's why I push this issue so hard. Our goal is to rebuild this fishery. And I'm scared to death. I just know from all the people I know that fish, they do catch a flounder this small occasionally, but the average flounder release cannot be this small. And I don't know what it is. I know y'all don't. Ann told me they were looking at other numbers, hoping to find something better, but it's just scary to think that we're gonna come back and say, oops, there's nowhere to go but a moratorium from where we're at now if you have to take a further reduction. I mean, let's face it, there's not enough fish for anybody. So
Well, Glenn, if you remember, I pushed that and asked for a vote on that, and everybody looked at me like I had 3 heads at the time.
we asked for a 2-year moratorium too, because
I was pushing for 5. I sat right there and made the motion, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy.
but it's just scary to think. I mean, I don't even want to talk about the fair taking them from somebody else, giving them to somebody else. I'm just concerned about how this could impact rebuilding. And I'm concerned about it going to 60-40 and 50-50 in the current plan. I think that shift, if you decide to reallocate, should happen after you recover the fishery, when you start giving fish back like we did with striped bass. You just give more back to the other sector as you're giving it back. And it's just scary to think that we're going to shift the fish to the sector with the highest degree of uncertainty while we're trying to recover a stock. And I'll leave it at that. I obviously I don't support this.
Glenn, I'm curious. So we talk about it as increasing recreational access, and I think sometimes that gets misinterpreted to mean a longer season. Jeff kind of touched on it in the presentation, but increasing recreational access doesn't necessarily mean a longer season in 2025. It potentially could mean a little bit more stable of a fishery year to year. So shifting the allocation in 2025, maybe the season length would still stay the same. It just provides a buffer against overages that might occur that would have to be subtracted from the next year. So I don't know that it necessarily would jeopardize the rebuilding, because if you're not actually increasing the length of that season, you're just providing some of that quota buffer. So the next year it doesn't have to get paid back, at least not in the same way that it would if that quota hadn't been shifted. I think you're absolutely right. There's still a concern that we don't have the ability to monitor the recreational fishery in the same way that we do the commercial. But this should, in theory anyway, provide a little bit more stability year to year in the recreational fishery, as long as we don't do something crazy and see that there's more quota available because of an allocation shift and then just let people out willy-nilly to go target flounder.
And you've got a good point there, but it's still, like I say, there's just so much uncertainty, and I've always been told by managers, the higher degree of uncertainty, the more precautionary you have to be. And as we heard at the Fin Fish Committee when they met as the Southern Flounder AC, this is kind of rewarding the sector for going over each year and penalizing us. And it's not our fault that you had a system set up to monitor us and not the recreational sector. And when this goes to 50-50, it's an 81% reduction on the commercial industry and 47 recreational. And we approved 72 for both sectors. We should be trying to achieve it. And you know, the way you increase commercial access, you won't let us set our gear outside of our harvest season. That way our dead discards aren't real high and we can have our harvest season. You need a little bit of equity there, and I figure if you manage dead discards, you can increase access through harvest, or you can just say, all right, their access is catch and release fishing, but it should be managed within their sector, kind of like ours is. I mean, I'd love to be able to set a gill net outside of the flounder season and catch black drum and other species, but I can't because y'all are scared I'll accidentally kill flounder. And that's, you know, it doesn't seem quite right, but it's also concerning to me that we just don't really know where we're at in this rebuilding scenario. And like I say, I've run these numbers. It's easy to take those dead discards and times them, multiply them times a half a pound, 3/4 of a pound, pound and a half, and see what they inflate to. And they get pretty big pretty quick. So
I'll just leave it at self-assessment in that regards.
Yeah. I'll just say our topic is to discuss whether we wish to allow an earlier shift to 50-50 or not. A lot of this discussion should be directed when Amendment 5 comes around. There's a lot of things in there that we need to look at, be it dead discards, seasons, gear, you name it, that may be, you know, real important. I mean, somebody may say, well, let's get rid of gigs because they're not selective. You stick them, they're dead. Somebody may say, let's get rid of crab trawling because they kill a lot of juvenile flounder. There's a lot of things that are going to come up, and there's a lot of uncertainty in all of this stuff. But when we come down to it, the question put before us tonight is that the Marine Fisheries Commission proposed changing a year early this to 50-50 to allow effectively for there to be a reasonable recreational season. And that's what they asked for. Now, we may not recommend that, and we may have a very abbreviated recreational season. Either way you do it, it's going to be very abbreviated. And then you can talk about, well, is it fair to take away from one to give to another? And you do have to remember there is a boatload more recreational fishermen than there are commercial fishermen. So you look at it from the political point of view, there's a lot more voters who are recreational fishermen than commercial fishermen. That's just a reality. Not anything wrong with it. It's just a reality. So that's probably the pressure they have. I have no idea what their thinking is. But one way or the other, if we don't do it this year, next year it's going to 50-50. So that's how we need to shape the discussion is, are we going to look at this from the point of view of leave it as it is or change it as the commission would like to do? That's it. The rest of it is probably up for Amendment 5.
with that, I'll make a motion, support status quo to get that conversation headed in the direction you'd like it to go.
Yep. Well, everybody's got their opinion. And if we've finished asking the questions to the staff, we do have to have public comment sometime, and it's due about right now.
And Tom, I would love for there to be a public comment period, but unfortunately we didn't have any members of the public that wanted to speak tonight.
Okay, I can't see that far back there in the back of the room, so I couldn't tell who was there.
We have a few DMF members. If y'all would like to come speak, you're welcome to. Garland, we would love to hear from you.
Mike's chomping at the bit back there.
Well, do y'all have any more?
I had a question just about
please
I just want to make sure I was clear on this, and I think I read this in there. The division doesn't have a recommendation one way or the other. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I read that correctly. So it is a question of status quo or do we go to parity in 2025? There's no recommendation. It is from the division. This is something that the Marine Fisheries Commission has asked for. Okay.
This is commission request, not a.
Commission
a
request,
staff
not a
recommendation.
division recommendation. I got you. Okay.
Yes, that is
Still
exactly
likely
what
not
it
to
is.
extend the season to any degree if you do go to parity right now. You're gonna be in the same position that you're in before you even started this meeting. At the end of the meeting, nothing's gonna change. Nothing's gonna change.
Well, they may take our recommendation whichever way it is with a grain of salt. I have no idea. All we get to do is make a recommendation. That's our job tonight, is to make a recommendation. And it can be status quo, which will leave things alone and let the program play out, and the change will be next year, or move it to this year. And later on this fall or later this summer, they will have a season with a larger recreational quota. And that's what it boils down to.
That may not change the length of the season.
May not
At
change
all.
anything.
Yep.
I think what it does is probably prevents an overage. If they
Prevents an overage, it ensures we have a season this year.
it will ensure that it has the recreational season and probably prevent an overage that would probably hurt the following year.
The following season. Yep.
Yeah. So
That's all it's going to do.
yeah, we're in a tough situation with a limited resource, and that's all it boils down to.
Tom, I just want to make sure, I'm not sure if you heard for certain, Glenn did make a motion with a second. Glenn.
I did not hear that. I'm sorry.
Tom, if you're open to a motion, Glenn, if you want to repeat your motion just to make sure, and I'll
Yeah,
share the
I
screen.
had not called for that yet, but if he wants to make a motion, please make a motion.
Yeah, I just moved that we support status quo.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to remain at status quo. Now we have discussion on the motions. Anybody have any further, anything they want to say about this?
Tom, it don't look like there's any benefit to the recreational sector to shift the allocation.
It
Oh.
helps us in 2026.
Yeah. I mean, you hate to look 1.2 million recreational anglers in the eye, and tell them still can't keep flounder.
Yeah.
Recreational is supposed to be public. But in this instance, the commercial is supporting public because commercial supports markets. And 97% of the people don't fish, and they get their fish through the market. Plain and simple. Now, you're gonna take 50,000 pounds of fish off the market to put into a recreational.
You're not necessarily taking 50 pounds off the market. What we haven't talked about is
Exactly what you're doing.
the 3 million pounds of southern flounder that the recreational guide doesn't have access to. There's 3 million pounds allocated to North Carolina that the recreational guide doesn't have access to. So to say,
So you're talking about northern flounder.
but you're saying, oh, wait a minute, we're taking it away from the commercials and giving it to the recreationals.
Exactly what you're doing.
But now, what about the summers that the recreational don't have access to? You're not taking that pound away.
You can have all the access, you put your hook and line on, drive out there.
Can't keep them though, can we?
Huh?
Can't keep them.
Can't keep them.
That's certainly not our fault.
Can't keep them. We have no access to that fishery at all.
Yep.
We have no access to that fishery at all. So I understand why you're saying, well, wait a minute, we're kind of screwing the commercial guys here by taking, an extra 10% and putting it towards whatever the figure is, putting it towards the recreational guys. At the same time, us recreational guys are sitting here going, okay, great. You keep your 10%. Let us have 30% of the southern flounder.
Summer.
Summer, sorry. Summer. You know exactly where I'm coming from then, right?
Yeah, but
There's 3 million pounds of those things that are coming in state.
But we don't harvest them in this state. We harvest all of them out of state.
I harvest them off the beach.
I'm talking about commercially, they're not harvested in North Carolina. So if you want to go to Virginia,
I harvest them off the beach. I harvest them in 35 foot of water.
we catch them here too, but we had to throw them back. We
This is
can't.
That-
Plan.
Yeah.
It's our-
From all these
But to say we're
FMPs I've
taking it
been
away
on,
from the public market, my point is
Well-
that there's 3 million pounds there that we're not even addressing in the public market that the recreational guys don't have access to.
Yeah.
Here's a huge recreational summer.
this is the one fish the recreational fisherman has the ability to target under the current rules. That's it. They don't get to target the summer. And we know that the summers, basically, they come down here, they raise the youngs are raised down here. As they get bigger, they move north and they get harvested up north. That's a whole different story. But there are plenty of summer flounder out there that we have no access to effectively on the recreational side. The only fish we have that we can catch recreational is the southern flounder or the Gulf or the whatever the other one is. Yeah.
And Tom, that's,
The
again,
Gulf.
that's.
I mean, that's it. That's the problem.
We can discuss that in Amendment 5, but right now we're talking about the allocation. And I was
Oh,
just
I know,
shooting
I
back,
know.
wait a minute.
But I
take
understand
it-
quite well the issue that there's a lot of flounder that we have no access to. We only get to look at one subset of it, and we're getting criticized for trying to take a little bit of something. I just leave it that way.
I said a long time ago, take every finfish species and split it 50-50. Every species of finfish. Now, are we gonna get half the cobia?
Again, that's not the issue tonight.
Well,
The issue is we have a motion on the floor for status quo. And if you have any discussion on status quo, leaving it the way it is, I'm glad to hear it. And if we aren't going to hear any more discussion, I'm going to call the question and let's vote on status quo. All those in favor, say aye.
Tom, if you don't mind, I'll do a roll call vote.
Do
on
a
these
roll
just
call,
in-
yeah, because we do have people on the line. You're correct.
Boyce,
Nay.
Apagard,
Nay.
Morris, is absent. Proctor, is absent. Siegler,
Yes.
Blaine Skinner,
Yes.
Jeremy Skinner,
Aye.
Smith,
No.
Wilson, absent. Yates, is absent. And Scharf, is absent. And
We have a
Tom, I
tie
don't know if
vote.
you can see that on the screen. 3-3.
Yeah, I can see it. 3-3.
Okay, that motion fails due to a tie. Does somebody want to make the motion to, I guess, what is the proper wording here?
Accept the 50-50.
Accept the 50-50 for 25. Somebody make that motion.
Does it matter if we do that motion? It's probably, well, I guess we have to vote on it if we make a
Yeah,
motion.
and it'll probably fail the same way. So that's fine.
All right, I'll second.
Yes, ma'am.
Who seconded?
Sam.
I had it spelled wrong, but I had it.
Okay, further discussion on this motion to expedite the allocation shift of 50-50 to 25. If we have no discussion, I call the question. Well, we can do a roll call vote again. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Boyce, Apagard,
Aye.
Morris, Proctor, Siegler,
Hey,
Blaine Skinner,
No.
Jeremy Skinner,
Aye.
Smith,
Yes,
Wilson, Yates, Scharf. 3 to 3 also.
Gotta do that.
So that motion fails as it didn't have a majority. So with that, I guess we're up to issues from the AC members. Anybody have anything they want to ask staff about anything in particular?
Yeah, can y'all, just while we're talking about this, just for Amendment 5, can y'all go through the timing for that again? For Amendment 5 for the Flounder FMP, just to remind me the
Yeah, that's
dates
why
and
we have,
stuff.
that's why we have the question session, Sam, so you can ask your questions like anybody else.
So Jeff is bringing that up real fast.
Okay.
Pretty tough.
And once he gets that pulled up, he'll kind
Yeah.
of just talk about that timeline a little bit.
So currently, we're at the very beginning of that process. We just completed the scoping period. And we had our 4 scoping meetings, Raleigh, Manio, here at the CDO and in Wilmington. We had, I would say, fair attendance. We had, I think, about 30 people total show up. We had over 90 comments online. We got a lot of good ideas. We had a lot of good conversation with the public. So now what we're doing is we're gonna, with the scoping period comments and public feedback in mind, we're gonna develop a first draft of Amendment 5. And the plan is to have the FMPAC workshop sometime in August. That may change. The original goal was to only have Amendment 4 in place for a year and try to develop this for adoption next May. That is very aggressive. That is very hopeful. Not saying we can't do it, but that's what we're aiming for. We have a very aggressive timeline, but basically that would come to the commission in November if we continued on our current aggressive timeline. And then they would send it out for public and AC review after the November meeting. Then this group would get a chance to look at it, and then it would go back for their preferred management option or preferred management selection in February. Then it would go back out for final adoption in May.
And keep in mind that timeline is very, very tentative at this point. We just finished the scoping period. Like Jeff said, we got a lot of good ideas from the public about issues that wanted to be addressed. I think some of the discussion that we've had here tonight kind of indicates some of the issues that the public is interested in us addressing. Some of those things are more comprehensive than others and probably likely will take more time. One thing that we reiterated throughout the presentation that we gave today is that, we want this to be a comprehensive look at southern flounder management having a management plan in place moving forward. So we really want to take a comprehensive look at this, and that's going to take time. So as we work through these issues, the timeline might and is maybe even likely to change moving forward. So just keep that in mind.
And so earliest we would get. Oh, good.
I was just gonna say, I want to just put a plug in for if anybody's interested in serving on that FMPAC, please let us know. You can email me or the leads or Dan here, and we'll get you an application. We're gonna send out a notice to open that at some point in June, probably, but you can still contact us now and we'll get you that information. We're looking for advisors, and that would be your best time to speak your mind and give us ideas and help us build this plan.
Flounder?
Yep.
When
For
did-
Amendment 5.
When did crab start? Blue crab.
The Blue Crab plan is tentatively scheduled to open in 2026. So that's assuming we keep to that schedule. We would be soliciting a Blue Crab AC sometime in 2026.
Please sign up if you're interested, and that's the best way for you to share your opinions and thoughts and ideas for management would be to be a member of that advisory committee.
Or if you know people who would be interested in serving, please encourage them to apply as well.
Will do. Thanks. Thanks for the update.
Real quick question. Where does the stock sit right now? I mean, I know we're just spitballing here, but to me, it seems like we're catching more fish and bigger fish all the time. When Ann and I talked during the scoping period, she had said, "Are you seeing that many little ones?" And at the time I said, "No." And then obviously the next week we came home, and while we were black drum fishing, all I kept catching were those little 5-ounce flounders. So where does the stock stand? You know, on the water, I'm kind of feeling like it's definitely improved. Certainly we've got bigger fish now than we've had in the past 5-6 years.
Well, and that's, with a 72% reduction, that's.
It's to be expected, right?
Hope to see, yes. We did try to update the stock assessment, that was completed in 2024 with data through 2022, but it wasn't accepted for management due to the shift in the reference points. But the trends in the stock assessment showed that there was still concern to be had with the coastwide stock that, overfishing and
Still occurring.
overfishing is still occurring. Now, North Carolina's contribution to that is we can't piece that part out because it's a coastwide assessment. So we're still operating under the 2017 assessment as overfished.
And are
Are the other states meeting the same reductions we're meeting?
No.
No, because we catch 80% of them.
Oh.
Up until the Amendment 3, we caught 80% of them.
Yeah, now we're about 30%. So no, I mean, they have taken measures, South Carolina, increase their minimum size, so Florida. But have they done, what North Carolina has been required to do?
No, I don't necessarily agree with that whole management approach. But the only thing that you can harvest is a female fish. When you want the female fish to spawn, it's all backwards to me. It's Greek.
Holly, before we get to that question, I think Ann had something. She raised her hand.
Sorry, I was just going to follow up on what Holly had said, and that she's right. The trends in the assessment for the indices that we used didn't look any better. Whether it was looking at the North Carolina indexes or the other states. The other thing with a rebuilding stock, you would expect to see some size and age expansion, which we did not see in the assessment either. So while we can't say where we're at exactly, like Holly said, the trends still aren't great for this species. But that's all. I just wanted to follow up on that.
And Holly, you said that was through data through 2022. That's correct, right?
That's correct.
And then, we meet as a multi-state work group as the stock assessment work group from North Carolina to East Coast of Florida. And so the last time we met, we discussed the issues with the update, and, there's interest from all the other states to do a new benchmark, but they don't want to rush into one right away because South Carolina is starting more studies and things like that. So it was somewhere in the time frame of like 2028 was the start.
Well, if they don't have the reduction we do, why would they want to rush the study through? And I mean, I hate to say this, the economics of it is that we've got more and more guys going across the South Carolina line, spending money to go fish than we do in North Carolina, and we're losing tourist dollars that way.
Sending out foreign aid every year.
Excuse me?
Sending out foreign aid every year. We're shipping flounder out
Oh, okay.
to other states.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Holly Ann mentioned that we're not seeing age structure expansion. Does that mean you're not seeing any older fish in the samples that you're collecting?
No, I mean, we'll get a few, but it's not like expanding like we would expect to see.
So
7-year-old fish.
no, we're not seeing that, Glenn. We should be seeing like up to 9-year-old fish, and we just don't see it in the stock. I think the oldest fish in North Carolina recently has been age 7, and even then it might be 1 a year, if that. So, and we would expect as the stock recovers, you would expect to see much more of those older fish. Still not a lot necessarily compared to, say, the ages 3, 4, 5, but you would still expect to see a shift towards that tail end in all the states. And when you look at it as a whole, we're not.
But are we seeing a shift forward with the 3, 4, and 5s though?
No, we're still fishing mostly on ages 1 and 2, and that's still showing up in our independent samples as well. So that is the issue right there. Where that peak is at those ages 1 and 2s, and you would expect to see even more of the 4, 5s, and 6s, and we're not.
Your moratorium looks mighty good too.
It seems to me then there's something else there that's happening that, because you would have thought
That with us not fishing hard for them, I mean, even though we went all our overages and everything, still,
worst case scenario, we cut harvest by 60%, let's say. And you would have thought
within 60% of reduction over a 4-year, 5-year period, we'd be seeing more of those 3, 4, and 5. So there's something else going on there.
Is there? Do we have more migration than we think we have?
Study did show them migrating north. It showed them going straight offshore, but there was some data last we saw that suggested that they weren't returning to the estuary. So some of those adults may be where we don't fish and they can't catch them, but it's not definitive. I talked
The
about
tax
that.
study gave us just a
They
little
kept saying that
bit.
maybe they were spawning at the continental shelf, but nobody really knows.
But none of the ones we tagged went north like they thought they would. They all went offshore. So they are learning something. We're just not.
Yeah, there was like a couple that went up north, but yeah, most of them were in that near shore area. But again, our pop off, the dates of the pop off tags may have only shown like a staging area. Like they could possibly be, staging in near shore areas and still migrating out to the continental shelf areas. Cause we did in some of those, more high tech tags have some of the similar, evidence of like what they've seen with halibut spawning. So we think.
So you're measuring water pressure to determine how deep they are,
Mhm,
basically.
yeah, so you can see what they call like the spawning horizons. But again, yes, so I mean, we did have, that like around South Carolina, North Carolina, near shore area, Cape Lookout. All patterns too, but yeah, no, there wasn't this, we didn't find the.
Well, for us, that's where the big
Southern
fish are, is on the near shore structure. 30 feet to 75 feet is where all the big fish are, always have been.
And some of our tag returns have shown, we've had some come back in course down, be tagged and then come back in course down, be caught like right exactly at the place where it was tagged. So, they are, there is some cyclical cycle there, but definitely more research into that.
Well, with that said, I make a motion to end the meeting.
I have Jesse, one quick question. Sure. Last meeting, Jeremy asked you about our meeting. Was that permanently taken off the table or was it just temporary? I didn't get it.
I won't say it's permanently taken off the table, but it's been tabled for now. I think it's something that I would like to explore more, but I don't think we have any plans in the near future for that.
Okay, question, when will the next meeting be?
I will have to pull that up real fast. Give me 1 second.
I'm sure we all got something somewhere that's telling us that, but it's always easier to ask. Put it on your calendar.
I think I would have that prepared.
I have it as the 9th of July.
Sam, did you get that from the schedule that I sent out?
The calendar, yeah, I don't know when you sent it. It's been on my calendar for a while as that date. So I don't know if anything's changed, but that was the one I had.
So we've had to change that schedule around since we sent it out some. So we
Okay.
currently have June 18th as the tentative schedule for the next Southern AC.
And it'll be
June-
where?
Oh, June 18th. Okay.
It'll be
It,
which,
it will likely be in Wilmington somewhere. I don't know if it will be at the Wilmington office or potentially another location, preferably another location, just because that office is the space is a little tight in there. But it'll
Date
be
again, I'm sorry.
June 18th.
Good thought.
any preliminary topic?
I don't believe so. That is yet to be determined.
Okay.
But if y'all have ideas for things that you would like to talk about, we would love to hear. And one of the things that we've kind of discussed is a lot of times at the AC meetings, we're talking about FMPs, things that are really kind of necessarily somewhat controversial. There's decisions to be made and issues to be dealt with. And I think sometimes that lends itself to meetings that aren't as well. I mean, on the one hand, they're exciting and people are engaged. On the other hand, it doesn't allow for a lot of just discussion, like friendly discussion amongst the ACs. And I would like for us to have some meetings that are more just informational, where we can kind of come and learn about some fun topics to really help the AC.
I want to learn about MREP. I mean, because I think, Lord help us, everything we deal with, we're dealing with MREP and that kind of modeling. And Chip Collier gave me a couple of books to read, and I went ahead and dug into them. I'm like, oh my God, I'd like somebody to explain it to me like the redneck fishing guy.
Well,
It's been 30-some years since calculus and statistics.
Mike, I think that is an absolutely fantastic idea. And we actually gave an MRIT presentation to the commission in November. Brad Johnson and Jeff Moore. Jeff Moore is our coastal angling program manager. Brad Johnson is our recreational statistician. That presentation I felt like was fantastic. I can send that presentation out to the commission if y'all like to see it.
Please.
But with that said, I think it would be fantastic to actually get them here to give a similar presentation and actually answer questions. I think that's where a lot of the good.
And because that's what Glenn and I disagree about a lot of stuff, but one of the things we do agree about is that we're trying to make decisions here and we're not quite sure of the numbers.
Need better data for better management. I mean, that's.
And that was the whole guidebook thing. We were going to do guides, we're going to do a record just like you guys had to do. And we all supported it and then it got stomped on, but that's a different story. But I do think that would be helpful for a lot of us. I know I'd love to hear that, to sit and listen to all that fun stuff about FMAX and blah, blah, blah.
I mean, that does sound very exciting.
I-
I bet we'll have a ton of the
It's very
public here.
good one time to eat. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. And on that same note, I think it would be good and probably at the same meeting to give a little bit of information to the advisory committees about the mandatory harvest reporting requirement that's going into effect December 1st of this year and what the division's working on with that.
Are we going to be able to pull statistics out of it though?
Oh, yeah, do that.
You mean about mandatory harvest report? If we're going to get like usable data from it?
Yeah.
I would say right now, we're not going to have data that we
We
can,
thought we were going to have, or they were hoping to give us.
that we won't have data that's usable to inform management decisions like actual harvest reduction estimates or anything like that in the near term. Like as far as, it goes into effect December 1st, 2025. 2026, we're not going to have usable numbers to inform management decision. 2027, probably not. There necessarily has to be somewhat of a level of overlap between it and MRIP in order to calibrate any estimates that we get from it.
You need a full time series too, don't you?
And with that said, even still, even if people comply 100% with the mandatory harvest report requirements when they go into effect, and we have an accurate estimate of what fishermen are actually harvesting, it still will need to be used in the context of MRIP because that's what's been used in previous management and stock assessments and all that jazz. So I don't foresee anytime soon us using mandatory harvest reporting to replace MRIP because also one of the things that MRIP does collect that mandatory harvest reporting doesn't is, like we talked about tonight, discard information. Mandatory harvest reporting, fishermen will only be required to report what they actually harvest of those 5 species. They're not required to report if they go fishing and don't catch anything. They're not required to report what they throw back. So a lot of that information is information that we absolutely have to have in order to make management decisions. So MRIP, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, is still going to be used to get recreational statistics here.
We may be able to hold that data aside and make comparisons and see if they align, and that would give us more faith in MRIP, obviously, if they align.
It potentially could give us more faith in it.
Okay. Any other questions for the staff? You want to give us any update on the commission? Is there anything we need to know going on there right now?
So the commission hasn't met since your last meeting.
Okay.
So you can refer back to that. If y'all have any questions about what happened at that March commission meeting, I'm happy to answer them, or if y'all would like to reach out after the meeting or anything like that.
And the next commission meeting will be in May 19th.
It's in May at the Beaufort Hotel.
Okay, with that said, if everybody's finished asking questions, somebody want to make a motion to adjourn? I know there was one tried to be made earlier, and I assume they don't mind making one now.
I'll make it.
I believe that was
And
made
We
by
we got a
Mike.
motion and a second, correct?
There you go. Skinner and I agree on something.
If we have a motion and a second, I call the question. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye or raise your hand. We're going to do this without a roll call vote. With that, I believe we are adjourned.
Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for joining in.
Thank y'all for having it. And I think we got through in a good amount of time. So thank everybody for being concise tonight and getting to the point. It worked out well for all of us. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thanks.
Good night. Y'all have a good evening.
Okay, bye.
I mean, we have like a general idea, right? But